Such a pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Jennifer Verschoor. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I would like to thank the British Council for this invitation to give this plenary talk on AI and digital transformation in the EFL classroom. My idea today is to walk you through my experience integrating AI in more than 2 years in different educational settings in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And for today, what I have prepared is first, let's explore what does exponential thinking mean in a linear world. And then we're going to be exploring the impact of AI in the EFL classroom. Just a little bit about my background. I have been teaching English for more than 20 years. Currently, I am working at a bilingual school in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I work part-time, and then I also work at a startup on artificial intelligence, where I'm constantly learning in this exponential pace how these tech companies are creating content for education. Besides that, I have been awarded a scholarship in 2023 to attend Singularity University, where there I was exposed to this idea of exponential thinking and the enormous impact technology is nowadays having in our daily lives. I've been in EdTech for many, many years, and now in these last 2 years, I have specialized in helping teachers integrate artificial intelligence into teaching and learning. And I also have a postgraduate course on artificial intelligence. So let me share with you my 2 years experience integrating artificial intelligence in different classrooms. So picture yourself here standing. Take a look at the picture. This picture, I generated it with ChatGPT. And you are right there thinking you have two different crossroads. One sounds quite familiar because it's focusing on traditional houses, everything that you already know, that you're used to, that you feel comfortable. This would be a linear thinking. We as humans, we have a linear way of thinking. On the other hand, the other road is totally new. Nobody has been there before. And you can start creating your own path at your own rhythm in your own culture. Now, this is important because we have to rethink how we have been teaching for so many centuries. And now with AI available just a click away, and AI is now it's free, it has been democratized. We can rethink the assessment. We have to rethink what are the skills that our students need for the future. And basically, we have to understand that nowadays, global exponential thinking is what our students need. And this has definitely an enormous impact in our classes as EFL teachers. Because now we have a co-pilot available to assist us in our daily tasks and also our students in their own learning scenarios. That this could be obviously ubiquitous. It could take place in the classroom or outside of the classroom. So my idea today is to walk you through a different crossroad, something that hasn't been explored before. I want to show which have been the things that we have implemented that have been really positive, where we have made mistakes, and I would love you to walk this path along me once you finish attending this talk. I don't know if you ever heard about Ray Kurzweil. He is one of the creators of Singularity University, and he has been analyzing the impacts of exponential technology for the last centuries. And he has realized that technology itself nowadays has an exponential trajectory. It's totally different to what we knew before. Whenever you attended this university, they could forecast what was going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. But the pace in which AI is advancing and other kinds of technologies, now, yes, this means that AI in education will improve faster than we expect. Therefore, we have to start changing our mindsets and start rethinking this idea of how we can learn, unlearn, and relearn several of the practices that we have been doing for so many years. Now, what does this, for us as EFL teachers, what does this mean? Okay, that language nowadays can be more adaptive, it can be more personalized, and it can be more accessible. And my time, when I went to school and I had to learn English, the only holder of the knowledge was the teacher, and I had no possibility of practicing English outside of the classroom setting. You had to travel abroad to be able to do this. But nowadays, it's really accessible. We have so many different digital devices that we can use and medias that you can immediately implement in the classroom. But Ray wants us to think about the possibility of understanding that exponential thinking is something that is already impacting education. So once I arrived back from Singularity University, I thought about, okay, we have to rethink how we are going to be implementing AI in our culture where I'm teaching nowadays. So some of these questions before we started to create a strategic plan. So these were several of the questions. We created different workforces. This has been easy to think about, but many times it has been really difficult to implement because we all had different thoughts about AI. Many were resistant, some didn't even understand what it was. So the first question that we all wanted to answer as a school culture was, what is the main goal of integrating artificial intelligence in our school? We had been a one-to-one device school for many years, but now AI has taught us that the pace at which it had been advancing was totally different than in integrating edtech tools in our classroom scenarios. Then another question was, how do we support teachers who may feel overwhelmed or resistant to AI? We thought about the fact of creating tutorials, providing teachers with constant professional development, and then we started to realize that we had to focus more, not so much on the tools, but focus more on which are going to be the competencies that we wanted our students to learn while they were using AI as their co-pilots in their learning process. And we had to focus on AI literacy. We had to learn ourselves. And again, in all these transition, teachers were learning together with the students. We had to analyze and understand what was bias, what was misinformation, which were the ethical concerns in AI in education. And then this has been also evolving, the different questions that we had been asking ourselves, because there's other things that suddenly arose, like, for example, the environmental impact that AI has nowadays. You know that if you charge your phone, this is if you create an image with AI, this is exactly the same as charging your phone. So there is an enormous impact, environmental impact, and we as teachers, this is part of our job to teach our students how to ask questions correctly. So we have developed something that is called the AI School. Now, the AI School is a program that works together with the general program for the school. In this program, what we focus on and we consider that AI is a literacy. We all agreed on this. We created a specific guideline for the whole school to understand what is AI, what is Gen AI for us. We are an IB school. What does the IB say, and how could we use specifically artificial intelligence in class with our students. And we are also a Cambridge school. We elaborated a specific AI curriculum that we are still developing it. We are constantly modifying the curriculum as well. And we have a sector where we started implementing this back in the year 2023, as soon as OpenAI was launched. Here in Argentina, we finished classes in November, December, so our classes starts in February. So we did have some time to study, to create focus groups, and then to launch the following, year with the AI school. This is a work in progress. We have an AI in action sector that specifically is showing other teachers how different teachers are implementing AI. And we realized as well that there were some key structures that we had to modify in order to be able to implement the AI school. We had to understand what a power tutoring meant. We have been already working for many years with differentiation, but AI can really provide differentiation in a totally different way. These AI tutors have really helped our students in several ways. Now, I'm going to be showing you specific examples of how we have been carrying this out. We had to develop an AI literacy plan or directly focus on specific AI literacy plans that are already available online. We decided that we wanted our students to have the possibility of using chatbots for their own learning, where students had to focus on a personalized learning scenario where they had to develop autonomy. And specifically for EFL teachers, we knew that nowadays it's available to have many speech recognition tools that allowed students to continue practicing English during school or even after school. And we have developed a whole plan that we are all the time thinking and rethinking and adapting it every time there are different changes in AI. But basically, our main goal is to help students become critical thinkers, to become good communicators, and to develop the competencies that they need to survive in an ever-changing world. Specifically, we want them to become, to analyze, to think a lot about AI literacy. I'm going to give you an example first for you to understand what I'm talking about. We started off by creating and focusing more on generative AI. When we speak about generative AI, is suddenly nowadays we can all create content using technology. We can create text, we can create songs, we can create music, we can create videos. I always tell teachers at school that now we have the power of making everybody sing, dance. This is very easy. And we did start our journey by generating video tutorials, by exploring what was available online. Again, this was back at the beginning of February 2023. And most of these tutorials nowadays are even outdated because all these AI tools, they have an exponential growth. So we started off with Defit. That was one of our favorite tools for EFL teachers at school. They loved this idea that they could differentiate content. They're still using these kind of tools. But then every time we enter different generative AI tools, something different popped up. There were limitations as regards the kind of credits, the amount of credits you had to use, all of them. So we realized we weren't be able to keep abreast on all these different changes. If you take a look at topai.tools, I don't know if you know this, this is like a search website for you to find different AI tools. So they have available nowadays in their data set, they have more than 18,000 AI tools that you can explore and you can immediately use in the classroom. And obviously this keeps growing. So if we take a look and we analyze this, if you are going to be exploring 10 tools every 10 minutes is going to take you 50 years to learn about all the different AI tools. So this was not really the road we wanted to follow. We weren't able to put this into practice in our EFL classes and in the school in general. So I found then this very interesting paper from the British Council that it is Artificial Intelligence and English Language Teaching, Preparing for the Future. And it was really interesting when I read about it. It says, well, what are teachers using? This was back in July last year. And if you take a look at which are the AI-powered tools that teachers used at that time, you will clearly see that they focus on language learning apps. So they want students to continue learning, maybe after school. The teachers were using a lot of language-generated AI tool. This was a 37%, and I still see many teachers really focusing on this. We know that AI is helping us really to save a lot of time, especially for planning and other different administrative tasks that we have to complete. And we've spoken about chatbots, 31%. And then we have automated grading. 22% of teachers use different generative AI tools. Then 21% use speech recognition software. On the other hand, 19% use text-to-speech tools. And for data and learning analytics, 12%, that's quite low. And then for virtual and augmented reality, 7%. So we realized that this is a very interesting overview of what was happening at that time in different EFL classrooms around the world. The survey that the British Council did was with 1,500 teachers in different countries. And what I found it really interesting is that we can now really personalize learning using chatbots. And only 31% of teachers are doing this. So how can we really start using AI intelligent tutors in the class to allow our students to develop the skills they need for the future? So we thought about, let's start with a big paradigm shift. Let's change, instead of grading essays, to evaluating conversations. Obviously, this is easier said than done. And if you are working at a school where you have a strict curriculum that you have to follow, this obviously cannot be implemented in an IB setting. But then we started to focus and think, okay, we want our students to develop, to become, to ask good questions using conversation and AI. So let's start assessing the way they're having these conversations with AI. Once you bring this into real life, once your students are in front of a chatbot, at least in my humble experience, students didn't even know how to start a conversation. Students had to first understand what was AI, and we had to constantly focus the fact that this was not using Google, this was definitely using AI as a conversation, that it has to come backwards and forward constantly, that you don't have to stop on the first question that you make. You have to keep asking questions until you arrive to what you want to achieve. So we implemented a methodology. The methodology focuses on three main parts. And within this methodology, I'm going to give you examples of different schools that we have implementing. We have been implementing this. We first focused on AI literacy. This means that the students and the teachers, they had to understand how AI works, what's the use, spot for biases, for hallucinations, but we had to explain this. And this was really very interesting because most of the students, they just copied and pasted whatever happened in these different conversations. So we realized that it was really important for us to first to train teachers on really how to implement AI literacy, and then to focus on these chatbots that have AI intelligent tutors. What does it mean that AI has AI intelligent tutors? It means that this has evolved since the beginning until nowadays. But these AI intelligent tutors, what they're doing, this is called the AI agents. This is really what's revolutionizing education nowadays, is that AI can help our students to think. Now, if you put an objective and you don't make students just have a conversation with ChatGPT, let's be honest, ChatGPT has not been thought for education. You have no control on how our students are working or which are the conversations that our students are having with ChatGPT. So there are already some tools that have AI intelligent tutors that guide these conversations that the students are having in the chatbot to the learning objectives that you want to achieve. So this is like the personalized part, the silent part in the classroom, where suddenly the teacher is not the center. And I'm going to give you a clear example of how we have been doing this in different schools in Argentina. And then the final stage is the stage that I call learning circles. But these learning circles are different to others that maybe you heard about before. Why? Because the student is going to bring into the learning circle what the student has learned through the conversations he had in a personalized way with different AI tools. And then they have to create an artifact, whatever they want. It could be a presentation. I'm going to give some examples as well. Maybe a panel of experts to showcase what they have learned. So when we're talking about AI literacy, we started off with, this is a very interesting program. It's free for all of you to use. I am part of the team that I keep receiving the updates, and they keep updating this all the time, where this is called Day of AI. This is an initiative from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And they thought about this idea of, let's think about the day of AI, where students have to understand more what is AI. And you have ready-made lesson plans. All these lesson plans are available for free. You just log into dayofai.org and you're going to find different material for different age levels. This is a wonderful way to start teaching our students not only English, but as well the skills that they need for the future. In this case, for example, because the other day I had a teacher asking me, should we teach AI in kindergarten? And if you take a look at the program of MIT, I think that we can start teaching definitely AI in kindergarten. But obviously, we're not going to be using ChatGPT or any specific chatbots. But yes, our students have to become critical thinkers as soon as they finish K5. Why? Because they have to understand what is AI and what's not AI. So understanding where AI is in our surroundings, if understanding that AI learns over time, and you can interact with AI, with the people or with the environment, and if AI is intelligent or if it only follows a program. And there are many interesting activities. You can adapt them. Again, one of the biggest advantages you have nowadays with these kind of tools, you can download them and maybe you can then upload it nowadays to different chatbots. And maybe if the level is too high for your learners as regards language acquisition, you can even ask the chats to use another simpler language for your students. So I would highly recommend you to start checking these kind of AI literacy programs that are available. Another one that we have been using now going up into grade 6 to 12, I'm sure many of you have heard about Common Sense Education, that they are always updating content, ready-made content for us. And in this case, what they have launched is a number of 8 different lessons for our students, again, to focus on AI literacy, to understand what is AI literacy. And they're really short lessons, not more than 20 minutes. So maybe you can focus all your English teaching basically on a different concept of AI literacy. Yes. And in this case, the different topics that you will find are going to be news and media literacy. You're going to find also about digital citizenship, and now specifically about artificial intelligence. What I like about this program is that you have a ready-made handout that you can use, and also you have the ready-made presentations. So I believe this is very handy for teachers, and you have an enormous collection of different tools that you can use. And again, the main purpose here is for our students to understand what AI is and how it works, to consider some of its potential. Let's always focus on the ethical part of AI as well. And then to think critically about how we can be responsible users using AI in different scenarios. So this is the two main AI literacy programs that we have been using. Now, we have been teaching AI literacy not only in Argentina, but I have this beautiful example where I have been teaching AI literacy in Uganda, not only AI literacy, but also conversational AI. And this is interesting because the teacher generated the content that the students had to learn using AI tools. So we have different tools that we can also use to generate and create conversational AIs. For example, you can use School AI. That is another tool that you can implement where students can have a chat with a character. And because you can create your own characters within School AI. And then you have another tool that is more specific, that is specifically based on character AI, that here you only chat with a specific character. So this is interesting because students can obviously start these conversations in a safer environment where you can start controlling the conversations that your students are having. In this particular case, what I did is I taught students specifically what is AI, what is AI literacy, and we used a specific platform where we were able, through a dashboard, to read which were the conversation that the students were having. Now, the student and the AI, and the student and the AI literacy. Now, this is interesting because here is where the role of the teacher is so important. Students don't know how to personalize their own learning using AI tools, or at least this has been my experience using and implementing this in more than 20 schools here in Argentina. They need to understand how to scaffold their own learning process. So an example that we did is we wanted to change the way we were focusing on the AI integration. Therefore, that we had to rethink the time distribution in the classroom. We spent 5 minutes introducing maybe the tool that we were going to be using, and then obviously talking about AI. This means that we were talking about AI literacy, talking about hallucinations, talking about biases, talking about the ethical parts, because in some of the different pilots that we carried out, some students, sometimes they become really smart, and while they were having these conversations with different AI platforms, they just copied and pasted also the answers from other AI platforms. We then help students understand clearly which were the learning objectives that we wanted them to achieve. And this is key because they are going to be able to achieve these learning objectives assisted with AI. And then we spent like 15 minutes allowing the students to read the content or to listen to the content. This is one of the biggest advantages many AI tools have for EFL learners. The students had to read or listen to the content, and then they had to answer questions with the AI. In this process of answering questions with the AI, as I told you before, most students didn't even know how to ask questions. So what we have to here help students, we have to focus on critical thinking strategies. We have to help our students to move beyond the yes, no, or the factual questions. And we have to guide them. I'm not even talking about prompting here. I'm just talking about the Bloom's taxonomy. We have to teach our students to ask why, the how, the what, and we have to start making our students justify and reflect. Always reflect on which is the answer that AI gives us. And then we always give them 25 minutes for them in these learning circles for them to create a presentation or a class discussion. On the other hand, before we start, we want them to clearly understand how AI works. So this is some of the slides that we even showed our students is like, students have to understand that AI makes mistakes and it can generate incorrect answers. And we sometimes even create competitions to see which students really spot an hallucination. We want them to try to spot them. We want to really make them think beyond the tool itself. We want them to understand it clearly that whatever learning management system you're using nowadays, it's not perfect. They make mistakes, so we cannot just copy and paste. That's why we cannot blindly trust what all these different tools are giving us. Yes, it's a good co-pilot to adapt our learning and to personalize our learning. But we have to understand that the bias already comes from these companies that created all these different tools. Most of them are from a specific area in the US. Well, now we have some from other countries that have been launched, and most of the CEOs are less than 14 years old. So the bias is there. So students have to understand that they're receiving some information. They have to learn how to process this information and then understand if the answer is correct or not. So students have to all the time critically analyze the answers of all of these different conversations. On the other hand, you as a teacher, you can monitor. You can monitor all the different messages that the students are doing. Try to find tools, and I'll give you some examples, that you can monitor the conversational AI, the conversation that your students are having with conversational AI. Okay, they have to understand that this obviously is a tool and they have to use it wisely, because sometimes students just write different messages that are incorrect or have nothing to do with the topic that they're going to be learning that day. And what is really important is to understand that the class dynamics changes radically. Now, the teacher is not the one that provides all the answers. The students have the co-pilot that is specifically the different conversational AI tools. Let me give you an example. We were implementing this model in one of the schools. And one of the students said, oh, sometimes when you have these conversations with AI, once ChatGPT answers back, maybe it's too long what the AI answers back. The students didn't even know how to ask the AI, okay, can you please explain this using maybe simpler language? Can you make it shorter? Can you please give me an example in the real world? How can I really work with this? So again, students need us a lot to understand how to start having these different conversations with the AI. You as a teacher, you will always be a guide, but it is the student that has to go adapting their own learning using these different tools. And this is how we started off the class. We told our students, okay, we have 4 different steps that you have to accomplish today. And something that I want to highlight is that we don't need to use AI in every single class. AI is not here. Obviously, AI is here and it's here to stay. But AI is not here to replace what really already works in the classroom. We are now implementing AI in our different classes to provide extra practice for our students and to help our students understand these new competencies that they have to develop. So the student, for example, enters a module and has to check which are going to be the objectives. The teacher is always the guide, the facilitator, the mentor behind all this process. The students in silence read and then, or they can listen to the content that has been generated with AI, or this content also can be content that the teacher uploaded to any of these different platforms. And now comes like the critical thinking part that we have to help our students develop. That is, okay, AI is going to resolve doubts and maybe help them a little bit deeper. But remember that as you maybe in some tools you have a dashboard, you have to be constantly checking these questions to see if the answers are correct or not. And then by the end of all this process, the students have to present what they have learned to the rest of the class. All this is really easier said than done because, at least in my humble experience, students, it was very difficult for some of them to present what they have learned. It was easy for them to work specifically with the AI tool to understand after maybe one or two classes for them to understand how they were able to adapt these tools to their own learning needs. But then in the moment they have to present here, I believe that our role as teachers is really key. Okay. Because we know that learning has to be empathetic and we have to provide an atmosphere where the students going to be safe and not judged by the rest of the students. So we did use a specific tool. This is called RVDI. This is only available in my country, but this is just for you to have an example of what we have been developing in Argentina. So the focus here was for students to understand what was AI literacy. So they enter the platform and they have to complete at their own pace. The first activity is understanding AI basics. The students have to clearly understand what it is. But first, before reading the text, the students had to understand which were the objectives that they had to complete using conversational AI. And then there is another part. This is really personalized learning. And then the students have a debate on the ethics of AI. In all the different examples where we have implemented this topic on debates, the teachers have to first focus and guide students on understanding how to have it, what's a debate, how debates work. And imagine that now they are debating with the AI. So again, we go back into this idea that is highly important for our students to understand how to ask questions in an exponential world. And then they can create directly. There is another option within this platform itself where students, what they can do is they record themselves, and this is like magic. AI can automatically correct what they said orally. Now, this is easier. Again, it's easier to understand how this works, but we have also realized that many of our students, they lack some key skills. One was, for example, they didn't understand very well how to follow instructions. So AI is smart, but it's not so smart. So here's where the teacher's role comes into the classroom and is key. Students have to work because, for example, the students are going to be assessed using an AI tool. They have to clearly understand what they have to do. And AI is going to follow step by step the different objectives. Because AI has its limitations, we always have to teach our students which are the limitations that AI brings into the classroom. And we can never forget one of the most important things is the human factor. And basically, in all the different tools that we go implementing in different classes, the teacher that will be the human factor will never be replaced in these, even using these kind of tools. This is another example that we developed at a bilingual school in Buenos Aires, where the students are now working specifically with conversational AI. They are learning at their own pace. They are figuring out the content, they have to scaffold the content to see and adapt it. Now, as we always said in all the different pilots that we carried out, that figuring out what truly works to create engaging, meaningful K-12 education, and then scaling it with AI. We always want to focus first on the pedagogical side of implementing AI in the classroom, where the teacher, the human, is the human-centric, and we always focus or we try to look for different AI tools that are rooted in constructive thinking. For this is important. Nowadays, AI can really help and assist our students to, in a constructive way, learn content in different scenarios. So this was interesting because here you see a lot of students in this image. There were many of them. We did a survey before we implemented this, and we realized the students were already using ChatGPT and other AI platforms. So as a school, we wanted to help them use it in the most effective way. These are safe platforms because as you have a dashboard and you can see how the student progresses, this is totally different to what you're used to. And for example, this is the dashboard. And before students start having these conversations with the AI, we believe that, or we learned really, that it was important to write down on the board different questions that maybe they had to ask the AI to adapt their learning to the learner's needs. And these were some of the many questions that students asked us while they were having these conversational AIs. Can you help make this sentence easier to understand? Most students didn't know how to adapt their own learning using AI tools. This was the one that we have spotted that was the one that we thought students knew how to do it, but they didn't. Can you check my spelling? This was in different EFL classes in different schools. So this is what, because they were all used to use other softwares, but they had everything on the same platform. Something that we realized using conversational AI, that if students know how to ask questions correctly, the conversational AI is already adaptive. It automatically adapts the content to the learner's needs. So this was something really interesting. For example, can you show me how to join these ideas together? These were some of the questions that we wanted our students, again, to focus more on the high order thinking skills, because most of the students, when you start using conversational AI, or at least in my experience, is that they are not asking full questions. They are answering yes, no, okay, because they're teenagers in this case. And for example, where should I put a comma or a period? Some of them were worried about different aspects when they were having these different kinds of conversations. Did I make any mistakes? Again, this is also some of the many questions that students were asking while they're having these conversations. I like this one that says, is there a simpler way to say this? So again, we had one that they wanted to understand it in an easier way, but the other one wanted it, okay, can you please explain it or use simple vocabulary for me to understand what you are teaching me today? Again, it's strange to say this, but students were obviously having these conversations with the AI. And we always wanted students to finish with this question that was, can we review what I learned today? We always wanted students to finish having this conversation by asking the chats a specific question. This was a specific question that we wanted them to tackle. And this is the one that we wanted to see in every of these different kinds of conversations, that it says, I think this is too easy. Can you make it harder? Now, for AI to answer these questions, these were just seconds. But again, this is the moment where you as a teacher, you know your students, and you have to go guiding them. If you have a dashboard like the one we have here, it's easier for you to be checking the different conversations your students are having and then facilitate their own learning. Now, as a teacher, because one of the things that I showed you at the beginning was that, for example, we need more data to analyze the impact of AI in our students' learning. So one of the questions that arose was, once you have any kind of dashboard, is that how do students respond to the chatbot's open questions? Okay, we have to focus on this. And maybe you take a look at the whole dashboard. In the following class, you can provide different examples of what worked or what didn't work, or you go showcasing your students, which is a good question that has been made. Okay, how did the students react to the AI response? And again, how many messages make up the conversations, and what is their frequency? This is highly important because we want our students to think before they start asking questions. Again, this means that students have, when we're talking about the conversational AI specifically, students have to maybe, because one teacher in one of the pilots told me, but they keep asking very silly questions. So let's narrow this down. We know that the AI never gets tired. You can ask questions the whole time. So the idea is, again, this is the teacher's role, explaining to the students, okay, today you're going to be talking about a specific topic, and I wanted to ask not more than 10 questions to the AI. So narrow down the questions you're asking AI. And you will see this very clearly, maybe in the first pilots you're going to be implementing using conversational AI. You will spot this immediately. And you as a teacher, you will always become an expert on how to use these kind of things. So now we're going to be going into the final part of this methodology, that is the learning circle. This is a picture of a school in Buenos Aires. This is called Colegio María de Guadalupe, that has been recognized as the world's best school prize in community collaboration by ETD. So we're very proud. And we went to the school, and we wanted them to work. We implemented the whole model. And we wanted them to do at the end was, okay, let's focus on the learning circles. We wanted students were able to understand how AI works. They worked in a personalized way. And here is the moment where the students are in different learning circles. The teachers are walking around, asking questions to see if they understood. And the teacher has to recheck the information that they have learned using AI. And here, from the research from Johnson & Johnson, this is a very important moment in the classroom where the exchange of knowledge, and what is interesting here using AI, that this exchange of knowledge is not the knowledge that they have acquired specifically from the teacher, but the knowledge that they have acquired while they were having these conversations with the AI. And the communication skills are so important, because when we focus on the different communication skills, is how students are going to first handle the information they learned with their learning circle, and then how are they going to be sharing their knowledge with the rest of the group. So we need students to have a very active participation. And then to share this process, it involves a lot of debate and co-creation of knowledge among the students. So what we focus on here is that students have a very active role in all this process, where every single student work in a personalized way, and they have to bring into these learning circles what they have learned and share this with the rest of the students. So this is a video that I generated with Sora. I don't know if you've ever heard about Sora. It's like the new video. It's absolutely amazing. So real, this would be like we can rethinking also the classroom settings. We have to have different ways in which students can work in these different circles. That they can, for example, is going to be the master sharing what they all learned. They will be standing up, using different boards to share what they have been exploring and learning. And now I'm going to give you these 3 different examples of how we have implemented different learning circles with students in different schools. The first learning circle is, let's imagine this scenario where students learned with AI. They have already shared what they learned about the topic. And now you can use a tool that here, for example, this is not an AI tool specifically, that's called Storybird That, where students have to create a comic. Now, what we use here is the idea of students collaborating. They're summarizing what they have learned using AI, and then they will have to obviously showcase this to the rest of the group. But there are different alternatives using AI. If you want to have other alternatives using AI, for example, one AI tool that I use a lot is called Ideogram, where students can generate AI images. If you have Canva, the institutional Canva available at school, this is wonderful because Canva also generates really nice images. Then another way for them to showcase what they have learned in these different learning circles is verse by verse. No, I don't know if you ever heard about verse by verse, but for example, they want to create a poem. And I really like verse by verse because with this tool, students, what they do is they have their own copilots to help them create a verse by verse. So you can check it out. Don't worry, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a QR code that you're going to have access to everything that I shared today. So don't worry about that. Or maybe what you want is having students create a character using AI and start having conversations even with AI using character AI. This could be an alternative. And then one of the ones that I like the most is that students they create an expert panel. So most students are expert in different areas. This is wonderful for them to practice English. Now, one of the tools that I help my students while they are working in their learning circle is AudioPen. Now, have you ever heard about AudioPen before? But this is a wonderful tool. Even for myself as a teacher, I observe so many classes. Sometimes I have like this messy notes in my head, and orally I just record myself. And what AI does, it doesn't transcribe orally what I said. AI, what it does is from these ideas that are not very clear, it automatically generates a beautiful text that I can then later on copy and paste. And AudioPen is free to use. Obviously, you have some limits as regards credits, the amount of oral practices that you can have. But this is wonderful for students once they have to stand in front of the class and they have to expose what they have learned. I believe that these tools are great co-pilots for students. Then I also allow students to use Perplexity. Perplexity is not using Google. They use Perplexity because Perplexity for me nowadays is one of the best platforms to do research online. What you have available in Perplexity is that once you do a search within Perplexity, you can select specifically, you can select that the AI tool is going to search for the information using academic content. So this is what we teach students. Again, we're teaching them before using these tools how to focus on different kinds of AI literacies to work with. And then within Perplexity also, you can share. There is a part that is called spaces, and students can automatically share the different searches that they're doing using Perplexity. So this is great for them to work in a very collaborative way. AudioPen would be more in an individualized way, but if we focus specifically with Perplexity, students can also generate and collaborate together. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. And then one of my favorite tools nowadays is not really very nice visually, but for students that need really to practice specifically writing, what this does is this is called Magic To Do. So it's a very simple tool. It's not complicated at all. The link is quillbot.com. What it does, it breaks down every single sentence into a simpler sentence. So you just click on it, and if the student doesn't understand what they have to do, it's absolutely amazing because when we are working with different learning circles, we want students to become autonomous. We want them to take responsibility to do what they have to do. Each one of them will have a different task. So you can give, for example, students the possibility of using Magic To Do, where students, what they're going to be using, they're going to be understanding or they're going to be assisted by this tool where, for example, that they have to search a topic, they have to write a script, they have to practice pronunciation, even if they have to create a PowerPoint or they have to rehearse a presentation, this tool is going to break all the content into many different questions. You can keep clicking and clicking and clicking, and what it does down, it really organizes and helps students to scaffold their own learning process. Very nice, very simple, and I think this is a very nice tool even for writing for our students. There we go. In a second, but it just went to the link. And the last one that I would like to share with you today that we have been using in the learning circles is Vidnos AI. This is a nice free tool that you can use, that you can use it after your students are working with personalized learning with AI. They can generate book summaries based on the content that they have learned. They can focus on specific grammar and punctuation lessons. This is for you as a teacher, if you want to use it to capture their attention, for example. It's really nice for vocabulary lessons because you can generate very short videos, and I'm going to be sharing one with you. Remember that you have a limit of the amount of videos that you can generate. And I think that, for example, for students, it's very good for debates and discussions and for interactive storytelling. So they can go generating different videos until they can generate storytelling. It is assisted by AI, but in general, again, you as a teacher, you have to tell students that you don't want the whole video to be generated specifically with AI. What you want them is to think about the different moments of the story and for them to use it specifically to showcase what they have learned while they were working with the learning circles. Okay, so as AI and digital transformation reshape education, EFL teachers have an unprecedented opportunity to embrace exponential thinking, paving the way for more dynamic, adaptive, and student-centered learning experiences. I hope that you found this presentation interesting. This has been my humble experience. I'm still learning and exploring different ways on how I can continue integrating AI in the classroom for my students to help them learn better. But remember that we are nowadays in an era where exponential thinking is really, it's going to be even the revolutions, the technological revolutions are going to be even, the pace of them are going to be even quicker than before. So let's really start adapting our learning scenarios to what our students need.
Thank you for joining this plenary on AI and digital transformation in the EFL classroom.
I hope you enjoyed learning about a new method to integrate AI into your daily teaching and learning and discovered innovative ways to enhance your classroom experience with technology.
So thank you very much. Here you have my contact. This is my email, my Instagram, and Edumaya. This is the method that we are implementing. And please feel free. This is the QR code where you're going to be finding all the material. This hasn't been an academic talk, but there's a lot of research behind everything we are implementing. So I have shared with you most of the different papers and documents that we have read before reaching the possibility of creating a method for the classroom. So thank you once again for this amazing opportunity, and thank you very much, British Council.